Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the penultimate round of the Prospect Cup. That's right, we're approaching the thin end of the wedge here, and our first match is going to be the upper bracket finals. Regen against Avoided. I'm Big Hungry Phil, and with me across the desk is Lafon. Lafon, good evening. What have the people got to look forward to today?
This desk is awfully big, I have to say, Phil. Several
Yeah.
thousand kilometers, but
It was a big investment, but I think it's been worthwhile. It really brings us together.
the mahogany is a spectacular touch to the game. However, as you said, Regen versus Avoided, and this is one that I think we can kind of get an expectation early on. How are we going to see the grand final shape up? Because between these two teams, one of them has to move on. One of them's going to fall to the lower bracket to try and make their way back up. But on Avoided's part, we have a little bit of an adaptation. Maro's going to be stepping into this, and one thing we've seen is that Avoided, the last time you and I casted them, Phil, we saw them play against Maro, and Maro kind of Andy's team kind of disassembled them. Maro had some statements to say about how they beat Avoided in that previous matchup, and it was all about sort of execution upon sort of that one trick aspect and how to exploit sort of the weaknesses that Avoided naturally has. Coming in, will those exploitations be, sort of mitigated now that you have someone who kind of knows how to deal with it and how to play against sort of that kind of style? Will Avoided be able to take up to Regen? And on a Regen's part, I mean, this is a team that storied members here. They've got a very good Genji player in Chopper, in my opinion. So I'm excited to see if we're going to see more of that. Avoided, we know they're going to bring chaos. The question is Regen going to kind of mirror it out, or are we going to see something more standard from them as the game kind of progresses?
Chaos is kind of Avoided's principal imports, but after a while, you tend to learn at least the kind of general shape that the Chaos can take, and it's a thing that we've seen with one-trick teams going all the way back to No You OTP and Clockwork Vendetta, is that there's only so long you can run it before people just kind of try and get to the point where they've figured out the counters. And if you look at how Avoided, or specifically NA Avoided, which is this iteration of the team, not to be confused with the EU version, which is just Avoided, they actually failed to make the cut for Contenders Trials, whereas Regen are actually going to be going up into that tournament next week, in fact. So Avoided dropped out in round 9, whereas Regen made it all the way up, I think, into the quarterfinals. So I'm looking at this matchup and going, yes, we know Avoided, they bring the chaos, they can be very hard to play against, but maybe Regen have proven now that they've got the solidity, they've got the patience to try and deal with this chaos.
And I think that kind of is the defining factor here. We know that for Regen that they've got a very solid grasp on what is currently quote unquote the meta in terms of that Genji, in terms of that Ashe gameplay. We're going to see double shield from them. They're going to be a very standard looking team in my opinion here. My expectations here for Regen is not can they play what we consider the aforementioned best composition. It's more about how do they adapt to the inherently chaotic, inherently stylistically different Avoided here. And I think coming in Regen, the question is never going to be about their execution on their chosen comp. It's about how they execute when that composition no longer works out. We're off onto Busan, however, Phil, and as the gates open here on downtown, the teams are ready to take us away.
Out of the gates with the quick play special, Avoided, Widowmaker, Bastion, Wrecking Ball, Sigma, that Moira. Let's see how this works out for them. We'll see. Vayne already taking a run through, getting a little bit of ult charge, looking to get the second one out. Won't quite see the rock connect there from Hammond main, and nobody committing to the point just yet. Obviously not open quite now. Neither team really hard committing into this one yet though. Boat's going to get the opener though. Vayne's down.
Yeah, this is like the Bastion here can actually cause a lot of havoc. This gets taken so very low, Phil. The fight's not quite over, but Regen, they need to start committing on these resources. They need to start committing on these kills.
Well, that's useful though. The Immortality field is already out, and the kills are now in favor of Avoided. First cap will come through onto Regen though. And they've not managed to capitalize on that early pick, and it looks like we may see Regen stabilize here, and Chopper, no surprises here, rocking the most powerful crosshair in the game as he gets toe-to-toe with Morrow and runs him over. Vayne wants to with a trade here, and Nolan with an early coalescence, but with his teammates down already, that might not be the difference maker here. They have managed to get the presence on the point and secure the flip over.
And this is all because Bastion main's in the corner, providing so much downrange pressure alongside the Wrecking Ball in close. The rally's going to be committed here, but with there is a small opening here as this needs to be the commit from Regen. They need to win this fight decisively.
Bastion main is such a threat here, but with a rock to the face of the follow-up from Lava, threat well and truly neutralized. Morrow's back in on the Junkrat here for going the long-range pressure of the Widowmaker for a little more shield break, a little more pressure to deal with Avoided. They try and burst down the Bastion if you can get close enough, and it seems like we might be getting some kills here, and Boat with a stick. Ship's gonna find Zors here. Looks like Regen might have just enough to win this one out, but they have secured the flip, even as Bastion Main takes down Boats.
I mean, they're still going to commit. Avoided is not going to let this fight end, and it's going to
Wow.
be... Oh, Bastion Main.
Wow, that is big from Bastion Main, and big from Nolan Bastion Main with the triple in the configuration tank. Regen, they did flip it back for a little more point control there, but Avoided back in control of the point.
And I think the thing that comes down to it is that what is the sort of win condition here for Regen? Ultimately, though they do get up to 46%, they were never quite in control of that fight. Who are you assassinating? Who are you kind of diving for the DPS between Chopper and Boat? It's so hard to get in the backline here, you know, onto Avoided's side. But I mean, kind of you need to slow the game down just a little bit and start piecemeal taking apart Avoided. Regen seems to be getting ahead of themselves a little bit here.
Bastion's doing a good job here of just kiting himself around the point, but managed to wind up in the grenade clutch, but leads him right up in range of Ship, who takes him out. Chopper uses most of the blade to get rid of the immortality, but is only going to find one pick with that one. It will be onto Zul, so a lot of healing and resource off the table now for Avoided, but they're still in control. Chopper on top of Bastion Main deals him the critical blow and knocks him out, but he's not being allowed onto point. Bane1 just constantly knocking him back in. They are still in control of the point for now, but they are hemorrhaging numbers here. Bane1's going to throw in that minefield. We get the tire as well. It's going to take Chopper out of it. This is now last fight territory, and Regen are a long way from in control of this one.
Yeah, this is starting to, however, tilt back to the favor. A lot of resources being committed. I mean, if you're Regen, you need to win this fight, and you need to win it handily.
Bane1 not quite setting up the spin cycle, can't do that at that position, but a couple of runs through, going to be looking for the pile driver next. Maybe going to wait out that supercharger for now. Coming up on this fight though, Avoided, they've got a couple of tools here. They could win this fairly handily.
I mean, they're going to have to reset here with him and Main going down. Unless Bastion Main gets 2 kills here, I don't see this one
not
really
looking likely. They did a good job of hiding from him there.
Yeah. Still taking that high ground away though, so there's going to be a ton of spam onto shields here from Regen.
I mean, the shields between the Bastion and the Junkrat might as well not exist because they're going to go down in seconds flat. Magic Mateball will be the first to fall here. Regen are doing a good job of creeping this back up to last fight territory themselves. Chopper with the double there. They have just secured this for Regen. We can see Avoided punch back with a couple of picks here in order to bring themselves back into contention for the point. Chip taking Zor's out might be what flips this here, and as the pulse bomb connects to Hammond Main, Regen have the heavy numbers advantage. They've still got to deal with a couple of flankers here, and they've got to try and dislodge this Wrecking Ball, who is a permanent mobile threat here. With the minefield stuff up that avenue of recon test, how are Regen going to make this work? Well, they're going to start things off with a high noon from Chopper, who will find Nolan here, but he gets booped into the minefield. Chopper's going to go down here. It's 99 in favor of Regen, and they are not letting this down just yet. Morrow needs to find a couple of targets. He's only got the one with the Riptide, but it is Ship. It's a big threat down, and they've managed to flip. This is getting dangerously close.
We are in that last fight territory here as the Immortality Field is going to be committed, Phil, as Regen tries their best to clear out point.
Yeah, tagged back in here by Wrecking Ball after Wrecking Ball. Chopper with a swap up to the Doomfist has already found a key pick with Hammond Main going down. Bastion Main has this dangerous defensive position at the back of the point, but everyone is doing a very good job here of playing out of his line of fire. And Regen are still ticking up the kills in their favor. Ship once more with the Gravitic Flux will take Bastion Main up into the sky, but a beautiful Immortality from Zulix stops that completing in a meaningful way. But CJ gets on top of Bastion Main and knocks him out mid-ultimate. There's the kills we need for Regen to secure this, and it looks like they may finally have found out enough here to make this happen, particularly as the kill comes through onto Bane1 and they sweep it through, but that was very close, Lafon.
It was, and I think the thing that to note there the most, I think, is that despite the fact that Regen almost certainly was always going to win, that round was the kills were not happening quickly enough for Avoided to come back into that fight. The problem is that Regen were unable to unequivocally, until very, very late in that fight, make a stand and take out key members, right? There was always that one straggler who was contesting, always that next player coming in to tag in, and more importantly, Avoided was able to get a couple of trade outs. So for Regen, yes, they won round 1, but it almost felt like they kind of let that map get away from them just a little bit. And here in round 2 into Mecha Base, you have to think that there needs to be a little bit more concise and cohesive gameplay from Regen if they want to be confident in their win here against Avoided on map number 1.
No changes on the initial lineup here for Avoided, coming back through with Bastion and the Widowmaker. Widowmaker, I think, a little less well-suited at this point, but if you can find that angle away from the enemy team as they come in, could leverage some early useful kills here. Bastion main still behind the shield for now, takes a little bit of damage, but still not properly contested. And I think we're probably not going to see a full gauge in here until the point unlocks properly.
Yeah, no, I mean, Morrow here needs a pick off, and the problem is there's no way to really get in and get a great line of sight. He has to play extremely on the flank. You will always be at risk from both, too.
Oh, wow. Chopper didn't need the Regen advantage, got fairly up close on that one. We'll get a second. Bastion main still on the high ground, but he's got too many targets. There's too much damage coming at him from too many different angles. And Chopper is on a real tear here on their Mecha Base.
Yeah, I mean, Chopper actually switches to the McCree halfway through, or later through the round in round 1.
Ooh. Okay, Chopper was maybe a little bit overstated as well. There did get out.
Morrow was on the flank and gets taken out. But back to Chopper for a moment in that hit scan duel. One of the things that happens is that the Junkrat switch from Morrow actually shuts down a lot of what the Genji can play, right? So a lot of the angles that he can kind of take is mitigated by the spam, by the traps, by the displacement. And I think McCree here just gives a little bit more range, consistent damage that the Ashe kind of falls prey to in a 1v1, right? So Avoided suddenly running out of room here as they're taking a lot of different fights in a lot of different parts of the map.
Yeah, we will see Morrow come back in on the Junkrat, but this isn't a fight that really Avoided stand a chance of winning, so he's going to have to back out for now. But with the swap over onto the Junkrat, maybe this can be what turns the fight for Avoided.
I think the thing is, Junkrat's better against the Genji and Ashe the Widowmaker is better against the Ashe, the Junkrat's better against Genji. The McCree can just sort of punish the Junkrat at range, and with how control kind of situates itself, as we see Fame 1, Fan 1 getting kind of poked out here. But as the thing about the Junkrat here is that the McCree plays inside just inside the range the Junkrat wants to play at, and so there's nothing to get spam throughput, and this has just been all Regen.
I mean, look, this has been such a one-sided fight that I've just happily let you color through that fight because nothing was happening, really. Nolan's going to get a couple here, but Chopper still has the high ground control, and he can just double tap them as they come through. We'll see the roll through here for Bane, but he just takes so much damage that he can't stay in the fight, and he goes for the reset.
It is the case, and I mean, the bigger thing here is that in terms of the 1v1s, which is what Avoided kind of wants to be taking here with their composition, they're losing out in those 1v1s. It's Regen in man-for-man who's stronger, and as the Supercharger's committed here, this is all Regen yet again.
This is really, really rough. They lose Morrow straight away. Bastion main in a little bit of danger there. Will take the Pulse Bomb as well, despite nearly having got a pick. It's going to be shipped with a bigger flux there that finds one onto Hammond main. It's 99-12. There's a high noon on the high ground, and Avoided are nowhere to be seen. That's going to be a handy 2-0 to Regen on Busan.
And I mean, the issues that I had with Regen in their first round of Busan on downtown, where it was very scrappy, where it was very messy, stylistically, Regen switches it up. They go to the McCree. They make it a lot easier for Chopper to re-engage. And, Phil, I have to say, the adaptation mid-map from Regen, exactly what they needed. Avoided, not able to enter whatsoever on the second point.
And I think that kind of maybe puts a little bit of worry in the step of Avoided, because this is the control map style typically really favors that chaotic approach they like to take. It allows Bastion main to get set up in some wonky angles and just mow a couple people down before they've even realized he's there. As we move on to hybrid and escort and control, I feel like this is actually going to get harder and harder for Avoided. And unless we see some swap-ups from them, maybe if they bring some of their other members off the bench just to change what they can bring to this may just go the way of Regen.
I would like to sort of put a little asterisk on that point, because while in general I do agree, I think there is a small difference on escort specifically that can allow Avoided back into this. The big thing here is that second DPS player, right, on Avoided side, so the one playing opposite to Bastion main, in this case was Morrow, needs to be able to situate themselves so they create a crossfire with Bastion main, allow Bastion main to sort of rotate into a position where he's providing a lot of damage, and then you come in with, whether it's the Widow or the Junkrat, whatever the case may be, you're able to set up a crossfire and put pressure on the front line of Regen, right? That's not really you're not really able to do that in control because of how you're able to sort of avoid, sorry, pun intended there, but avoid sort of that spam damage coming in. Right. So I think here for Regen, as you go into these next couple of maps, maybe not specifically hybrid, but I think Escort is going to give a lot more room to avoid it to kind of work. That's what I want to see. Is that evolution from Regen going to continue? Because round 1 was very close, right? It was 100 to 99. It was very scrappy back and forth. Round 2, not so much. Is that same mid-match adaptation going to come through from Regen? Because if so, then your point is totally accurate and fully stands. I think if Regen, though, falls prey to some of those fights, then we start to see Avoided perhaps come back into the series.
I think one of the things that Avoided in the current iteration have in their favor is that whilst the majority of their players are these one-trick, two-trick players, actually having Morrow in the lineup works out really, really well for them because he is actually a very flexible player. If you think of what we've seen him play over the course of those previous 2 maps, Widowmaker, Junkrat, I believe the Hanzo for a little bit as well, the Soldier briefly. If he can put out a performance to the same level as Bastion main can on Bastion and Hammond main can on Hammond, etc., then actually he's a really, really useful piece of this puzzle for Avoided.
Yeah, I think the thing about Morrow is that plays those characters to a high level, absolutely. But I think more importantly, it's his ability to stay alive. We saw how talented. Yeah, exactly. We saw how talented he was in terms of his. The last time you and I casted him, he was against Avoided. We saw how effective and important he was to that compositional break, against what Avoided was running. But his biggest stylistic difference is that he's able to stay alive. I did not see a whole lot of that, to be quite frank, in the second round of Busan. So that's gonna have to be something that definitely steps up, changes a little bit there for Avoided in these next couple of maps.
It's just occurred to me, Lafon, Company 8, that's who we saw Morrow playing for, who in this tournament so far, certainly in the group stages, were the only team to take a series off of Avoided. And they did it with Morrow in the lineup. And Morrow specifically on the Junkrat, alongside of Farah, I believe, did a lot of work for Company 8 against Avoided.
Yes, it was a Farah Junkrat that kind of just sort of outranged. I mean, the Farah kind of takes down the Junkrat, so the composition that Avoided was running back then was a Bastion Junkrat look. And the Farah outranges the Junkrat, right? And kind of puts pressure on the Junkrat. So the Junkrat's kind of ineffective. And then you play the Junkrat to kind of counteract the tank line and Bastion. So that's what Company did to create effect against Avoided, and it worked out. But we are going to have a change up here as we're going to get Aquamarine into the lineup ahead of Bastion main on the second map. And Aquamarine is primarily a Junkrat player. So we are going to see Morrow play the not Junkrat, which,
Well, he's going to be playing the Genji, in fact, here. And it has been... Well, okay.
I'm caution you, Phil. They are on the red side, so it's attacking. Let's save our time just in case.
Yeah, every time. I do this every time. You'd think I'd learn, having done this for 2 years now, but no. Every time.
I guarantee we're both going to make that mistake, and I expect you to call me out on it as well.
Okay. I'll make a note.
To the defensive setup, I mean, Chopper starting off on McCree is a little bit interesting because I think here, the Junkrat's going to be played, right? Avoided kind of shows their hand when they come in with specific players. So the Junkrat here can definitely put pressure on. I think McCree's a good choice. The Echo, though, is a very interesting one, but coming out of the spawn gates, we are going to see Nolan on not Moira.
Yeah, he has done it a little bit, particularly when they've got Yezin in the lineup. He does a lot of the pocket Farah Mercy strat, but I actually really like this on the Junkrat as well. It makes the Junkrat even more of a threat than he already is. Boat's taking a bit of flak there, though. Has to get back up into the sky to buy a little bit of space. Desperately trying to track down Morrow with a focusing beam, but can't quite manage it. We'll see Avoided take a little bit of a back seat for now, waiting for some stuff to come back off and cool down before they can make the aggress back in.
I mean, the Echo here outranges the Junkrat yet again. Aquamarine needs to get some value here on the front line, I think. Lava, in fact, goes down. This is looking good for Avoided early on.
Yeah, that's a really great opening. Main tank offline, no mercy on the side of Regen to try and redress that balance. Morrow with a dash back in, won't find the pick. Will help take down Ship, and it's looking like it's starting to snowball here for Avoided. Regen on the run, Avoided Resurgent looking to cap out point.
That is a great run there, and exactly what you needed to kind of do. Have Morrow and Aquamarine kind of play up that frontline pressure. And, the Zarya Hammond here, one of the things that you can kind of do is get the Zarya up to a brawl state. We're seeing something similar to the Zarya being played out in Overwatch League in the Chinese level, right? In the APAC region, where the Zarya is able to kind of protect the front line as they go in, and then brawl as she gets the high energy as well. Here, I think it's less about protection and more about just giving a little bit more room to work. Chopper goes down there to the Junkrat. So this push is going to continue forward. Phil, I want to take a moment here. Oh, well, the Riptide.
Well, Aquamarine's not going to give you the moment, and Avoided not going to give you that moment either. Look at the aggression coming out from these guys. We'll see the Immortality, the Amplification Matrix out from CJ just to try and buy some space for Regen, but Avoided, they just push right past it. They're pushing them all the way back into their own spawn before.
And critically, there are the Dragon Blade Nano Boost combo is going to be online. So the Nano Blade coming into this next fight here, Morrow, as long as he gets rid of that Immortality field and kind of dodges the accretion, can really be
here it comes! Brings out the Blade. One down to Aquamarine, Immortality field open. Chopper with the High Noon finds Morrow and blunts the edge of that sword. But Bane Fan in that time was able to get the Graviton Surge out, and with a little bit of focus there, Magic Maple is going to be off the table. Expect to see a little bit of a contest here for Regen, especially as Boat actually, I think, taken very quickly out of that duplicate form. Chopper taken down by the long-range Conclusive Mine, and less than a meter to go on the clock. Aquamarine with another tire here could be what does it. Has the high ground now, needs to watch out for Boat, but Boat's no longer a problem, and that's going to be the payload in. Regen not close enough to contest.
No, not at all, and it has really not been a fight taken effectively here for Regen. So this third round this map has been all avoided. And while Morrow's Genji perhaps leaves a little bit to be desired, the team still goes through. Chopper making another switch. Gonna go over to the Widow, trying to outrange.
We got the Widow Farah here as well. The old Shanghai Dragon Season 2 special. Nothing out of the Riptide from Aquamarine, but now a couple more threats to think about, because both can outrange and outmaneuver and out-angle you, Aquamarine. And now with the Mercy Pocket, he's going to bow a lot of damage through onto Avoided, who are maybe having to take a little bit of a step back here as they wait for them to get themselves back to full strength.
The big thing here is how do you deny the Farah? The Graviton Flux up top.
Oh, nice boom. Bane wants down. That's got to be the reset for Avoided.
I mean, you use the Nano Boost, you commit it onto your Zarya, and Nolan trying to go for the kill here onto Chopper.
Oh, almost. No, Mercy Pocket there for Chopper as well. Nothing for Nolan. And as he tries to make his way out, Chopper's going to cut him down to size.
And I mean, coming in here, this is actually a really good time to kind of situate yourself. Both supports shooting at the trap up top, wisely avoiding it. You're going to see Morrow switch over to the Widowmaker now to try and counter out the Farah, but as long as you have the pressure of the Junkrat kind of dissuading, like as long as the Farah can sort of outrange this line of sight, the Junkrat's not going to allow you to push in forward. So Morrow not going to have great sight lines here on the Farah. It's going to be very tough actually for Avoided to kind of take this fight against the Widow Farah look.
Yeah, there's almost no way he can place himself where he's not immediately in the line of fire. Amplification Matrix out. Chopper's going to take Mora out already. The 5v6 there for Regen. Res will come back through, but Boat's on an angle. The barrage going to find two. It's punished by Aquamarine, but your work is done at this point, Boat. Have a rest back in Spawn.
Yeah, and I mean, you get the high energy Zarya off the table as well. So this next fight here for the Zarya is going to be about getting Bane 1 into the energy, into high energy, then getting the Graviton Surge online, then perhaps committing to it. This is going to be a really tough ask it's tough ask for Avoided to come in, and with that kill, that's even more time wasted. Yes, the Resurrect comes through, but you're still wasting resources just on trying to get on the entry, and you know that 5-minute time bank getting withered away. We're now at the 2.5 mark.
Oh, that was a beautiful ult into the Pacific Flux. Gets a couple. Aquamarine falling very, very low. 9 health and ship knocks him down with the Hypersphere, and this is looking really rough now for Avoided. They've been cracking away at this for 2 minutes and not getting a huge amount of progress.
Yeah, and I mean, as we said, that Gravitic Flux, you force the Resurrect out early, and with no Resurrect being available, you're not able to continue that fight, so that Gravitic Flux becomes a firm kill, and you have to reset. And now here's where the win condition has to come through. You don't have to worry about the Zarya's energy here. You have to get this Gravitic Flux, the Graviton Surge through, and use this up tire to kind of clean it out.
A couple caught in that, but that's it.
Great shield.
Immortality field and the shield just completely stuffed that up. Chopper takes Hammermane down in the middle of the ultimate as well. Now what a clinic from the DPS here on on Regen, and Avoided just aren't being given a foot of progress here.
Yeah, it's, I mean, perhaps Avoided's DPS are attending said clinic because they don't really do anything in that engagement. The Riptire gets a 0 value, a great barrier combo from Lava and Ship. And Regen deny that combo. And this is now the worst possible situation. Lava's going to go down, but I don't know that it's enough to actually push through here. As Avoided needs to kind of get this fight and win this fight out right now.
Oh, they're starting to make it work, though. Magic, Mateball, and both are down. And it seems to have been Baymon Fan One back on to come to pick the hammer, making space, causing trouble, making life difficult for Regen. That's really opened this up, because now they're on that final stretch through to a cap on C.
We are going to see a switch up here. Magic Maple going to go over to the... We get to here. It's going to be last fight territory. We are going to get below that minute mark. The boat goes down without the barrage being used.
That's really fortunate, but it looks like we've got enough people on cart at the minute to ensure that he's going to get back. A little trade there. Magic Maple out for Aquamarine as well. Shift with the Gravitic Flux. Maybe trying to keep people off the point for now. Baymon Fan One drops the minefield. Beautiful coverage there. Ensures that Regen can't get close enough to really contest that. And Boat finally commits. The barrage only going to find one and Avoided. Looking good here to cap out point A, but this has been a phenomenal hold from Regen so far.
And we are going to get, now it's about can you get to that overtime marker. There is still availability. Oh. He's down. Phil, this is not over quite yet.
No, not quite. We've got the spin to win cycle out from Ship. Lava back with the Fortify, with the Supercharger. Is down to Aquamarine to get something big here, but the tire comes out that little bit too early. Won't find a pick. That's going to be round one completed.
And I mean, that recontest was spectacular from Regen. It wasn't clean, but it was effective, and sometimes that's all that you need. I really liked how, you know, sort of coming in, you isolate the one target. It was, in this case, Morrow. You get the you force the resurrect from Nolan, and in that time, it's without the support, without that Widowmaker pressure. All of a sudden, Regen has a little bit more room to work. The stun comes in onto Bane 1, and then, you know, that starts to just... It's a house of cards. You knock one part of it over, and it all comes crashing down. Excellent retake by Regen on their defense, and set themselves up for a pretty decent look at the attack. As long as they complete the map, we are going to see a 2-0 scoreline. But, I mean, that's really all that Regen needs to accomplish.
I think that Regen are doing a really good job here generally of identifying what they need to swap to, what the counters need to be. But certainly on that defensive run, it all just happened a little bit too late, and the tempo that Avoided were playing at was so high that I felt like Regen didn't really get the chance to stop and think, and by the time they did, they were already into point C. Interested to see now whether they think they can make this Sniper Pharah approach work on their offense.
I mean, I actually really like this look because the damage that's coming in here, this is an adaptation based on what is being run by Avoided. The Pharah, you know, Morrow is... Hanzo can deal with Pharah on this map, but it's still very difficult. And with the Junkrat essentially ineffective against the Pharah, Boat's going to play up very far in the sky. Morrow is going to have a really hard time, I think, combating the Pharahs, or sort of the Widowmaker. And so it's all about just making sure that you just destroy the range at which Avoided can work. And now the tanks suddenly have a lot more to deal with.
Was a really cheeky little moon boot jump up there by CJ to avoid the roll through of Bane 1. Morrow's going to get Chopper out of the fight nice and early, and CJ gets cornered and run down by the Rat in the mech. Looks like we're going to see a nice defensive hold here for Avoided.
And I think, you know, sometimes even if you are not necessarily the most effective counter to sort of what's on the field, right? We said Morrow would probably get outranged by Chopper, but if you can get inside that range and suddenly you become, you know, that mid-range brawler rather than the long-range sniper, things start to become a little bit easier, and Avoided gets that first pick off. And obviously, with CJ being forced to use the Immortality Field early, the Wrecking Ball gets the final blow. So now, Regen... Oh, Ship needs to stay alive here. You cannot waste this time. Regen needs a clean fight here. They need to get that first pick off, and they need to start using their space to actually start moving on to the point here.
Yeah, at the very least, Boat is running a little more consistent damage because he's only at 63% of this barrage over a minute into the fight, and that could be a real opener. Speaking of openers, Chopper's going to take down Morrow. There is no longer a Mercy on the field for Avoided, so this is going to be what pulls out that card from the House of Cards you were discussing earlier, LaFon. Looks like Ship and Co from Regen are in a good position here to take point A. Aquamarine with the tire. Oh, immediately! Boat just had an absolute beam onto him the second the tire came out. Boat took it down. Boat with a double on the kills there to really secure this for Regen.
Yeah, and exactly as, you know, that composition, you saw that Chopper suddenly played in the range that was kind of more effective than Morrow, and that meant that all of a sudden, without Morrow to really pressure down the tanks, Aquamarine has to take much more aggressive angles, but the Pharah just ruins any attempt that the Junkrat kind of get into play, and it's all, you know, sorry, that Riptire play we saw, the Pharah comes in and denies it. It's just a small moment that shows that this composition just functionally has an easier time, and you cannot make mistakes here if you're avoided. You have to play very effectively. Aim one, going to switch over to the Roadhog. But with missing that hook, now all of a sudden, this Pharah is going to get so much more value from his window.
Well, Aquamarine and Morrow between them will get the double. Beautiful hook there from Bane finds Boat, and avoided with a really strong recontest here, not even holding choke, just holding the high ground.
It's I wonder if there's going to be a counter adapt here, or if it's just going to be a different way of approaching, sort of compositional adaptation from Regen, or if it's going to be a different approach right now from Regen, right? Rather than taking this play. So it is actually going to be a change. Chopper goes over to Hanzo.
Start to do some work. There's the barrage from Boat, but that's a 1-for-1 trade as Nolan knocks him out of the sky. Dragon comes out here from Morrow as well, but it looks like that went wide, away from where Regen was stood, not finding a huge amount of value. Picks coming through from spades from Morrow, gets the double there. Payload moves past the choke a little bit, but not really enough to secure a nice steady push through for Regen.
Game one here, if you can get...
Looking rough, gets the rock. He gets sent back to spawn. Numbers advantage now for Regen. Are we seeing a swap here from Ship?
Yes, I think it's going to be likely the counter Hog himself. Okay. I was expecting the Diva, but I mean, I can respect the Hog. I can respect the Halt Hook combo. As Match and Maple commit, there's going to be a commit here. They want Temin main down here.
Yeah, and he's unlikely to survive through this. There are a lot of Regen swarming towards him. Nolan's in the back looking for a pick-off here, but he's going to fall low, and now he's out of that orb. Expect the chase to come through. He's low. He's behind enemy lines, but this splits the team. 2 at back and 4 in the front.
And I mean, now here, as long as if you're Regen, you want to avoid this. You want to just keep your team alive and take the real fight here.
Wow. CJ with the amplification matrix finds the double. Bane fan did use the whole hog there, but it was a hiding to nothing because CJ got that double.
And I mean, that's exactly what you needed to do if you were Regen, right? Avoided the 2 players in the back line. They're not doing anything. They can't get to the fight in time. Take the fight in the front line, force the cart, force the objective. And now you put yourself in a position here on third. Yes, it's not nearly the extensive time bank that that Avoided had on their first look, but you have a better positional setup. Riptire has to be committed here. You need this to get a kill.
Aquamarine in a good position to do some work here, but it's got to be a little quicker than that because whilst the Tire has been rolling through, 2 kills already on the board and nothing out of the Tire. Care of the immortality field of CJ. So, numbers advantage now for Regen. Respawn slightly favor Avoided at this point. So, this is a good opportunity for Avoided to mount a good solid defense here. See Morrow throw in the Dragon and Bane one. Now on the Orisa, it's going to find Lava. And Lafon, it's looking like Avoided are about to give Regen a taste of their own medicine with a hold on Sid.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a zoning Dragon from Morrow, quite literally, as Lava's unable to walk back through it. And getting zoned out, gets taken down. And this is going to start to become now a little bit more complicated for Regen. They are going to make another swap here as Boat goes over to the Ashe.
If I could make it.
And I mean, the Ashe could actually get value around the shields with the Dynamite, but she also has that just damage throughput with her gun. Here's the Dragon Strike. Another zoning
right
Dragon
down mid. We'll get Aquamarine there. Beautiful combo on the Halt with Lava. Finds an early pick, and now we've got a large amount of high ground control from the DPS of Regen. Ship's going to find 1 pick, and CJ gets focused down here. The payload is still rolling, and this isn't a fight now for a draw. If Regen can complete this, they go to match point in the series, and they're finding the kills. Boat's going to take Morrow down, and we're looking for a second there. It's going to be difficult to make that work through the Transcendence, and Regen back out of the way for now. They've got 2 minutes. They're not in a rush here. They can make this work still.
It's a wise reset here from Regen. You just got the Transcendence out for nothing. You didn't have all your members available either, right? You had 1 player down. So you just force a trans and you force a reset and you come right back into it with that first pickoff.
Man, Hammond Main just got so bullied there with the Halt and everything coming in on top of it.
Vote with the double here, absolutely on fire on the Ashe, as are his targets as the TNT comes through. He's going to pick up the high ground, has a line now onto Nolan in the back. There's no contest, and Regen, they scooch across that last couple of meters and take us to match point in the series.
And I mean, just a great pressure in the penultimate fight from Regen, as they force, again, the Transcendence for free. They had lost that fight. There was almost no way that we're going to be able to get back into it. I mean, if you're Zulix, you kind of have to use it. You kind of have to use it. But ultimately, just a quick recontest, and there's nothing to kind of block out the damage from Boat at that point. Great play from Boat there at the very, as we got the highlight of the game. But for Regen, I really like sort of that reactive gameplay that they're showing to avoid its compositions. And it feels like, you know, there's teams when you play up against a team as chaotic as Avoided, that teams kind of get into their own head and they just kind of play. They kind of play what they've practiced, and they get kind of stuck into the game plan of, you know, of their history, right? You've practiced against teams that are playing something very consistent. Avoided is not; they never will. And so what it comes down to is you have to have faith in your own gameplay, faith in your own strengths, to be able to go to these compositions that you probably haven't spent a lot of time on. I mean, even if you scrim these compositions, you're still never going to, unless you're scrimming Avoided themselves, you're never going to get a team that is going to be as good at running this composition that Avoided is, right? Than Avoided is. So even if Regen did practice this composition, the fact that they're pulling it out and trusting in their own mechanical skill to come through, I think speaks a lot for the maturity of what Regen does as a roster. And Avoided, as a result, are now looking at Regen's match point.
I completely agree with you. Regen have looked so calm and collected. It's very easy to get yourself into a frame of mind playing a team like Avoided, of like stamping your feet and squealing, it's not fair, they're not playing by the rules, because that's kind of the whole point of Avoided, right? Is that they just play their own thing. And just like taking a moment to calmly go, okay, what if we did this and focus on this is the main point of damage. And coming back to that game that we previously saw Morrow playing for Company 8, it was realizing that Yezen, who was in the roster at that point, was like the main point of damage and the main way that Avoided were dealing with Company 8, and just like taking out Yezen very early every fight means that they were able to win through. And I feel like we're seeing a very similar level of analysis, of analytical play, and the right changes here from Regen that's going to see them possibly take us to a 3-0 here.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we're gonna head to Escort as our third map type, but I believe it's gonna be Junkertown as that map. We are gonna see a double switch up as Dyslexia and Bastion Main both come in. So Aquamarine and Morrow stepping out for the moment as we head in. I think, you know, something we're not giving a lot of credit to is Lava and Ship, and sort of how they're staying alive and creating space against the spam damages coming in. We give a lot of attention to the DPS players on, you know, whenever you're playing up against a team like Avoided, because of the fact that intrinsically, to kind of counter out that damage-focused style, you need your DPS to kind of step up. But it requires that your supports and tanks are survivable to last through that pressure. And I think credit to Bode and Chopper for doing a great job of shutting down whoever Avoided was playing in the first two maps. But Lava and Ship have done a great job as well of just staying alive and creating space, and are a huge part as to why Regen is up 2-0 here in this upper bracket finals.
Well, you can speak to this. It's like being the IT department. It's if things are going horribly, then everybody is on you as a tank or a support player. It's like, oh, we died because you weren't tanking enough, or we died because you weren't supporting enough. If things are going smoothly and you're enabling your DPS, nobody wants to talk about you because you're not doing like the flashy multi-kill ultimates. You're just like doing your job solidly and professionally. And it can be a little bit disheartening, particularly in this double shield meta for the less dynamic tanks.
When you said you can speak this as the IT department, I flash back to several meetings I've had where I've heard the same very thing. What do we pay you for? Everything's working. What do we pay you for? Nothing's working. So
it's a hard life, but we appreciate your sacrifices, Lafon.
But to a Junkertown now as a result. I mean, map number one, I think Bastion Main was looking for an IT department because his Bastion play a little bit ineffective in the second round, right? They weren't able to pull it out, weren't able to get a lot of effectiveness off of it. I think they're trying to head to Junkertown. You're going to play a composition that is historically been very good here on this map. You can play spam, you can play sort of double sniper if you wish. I don't think you're going to see that from Avoided, but I would be very surprised. This is going to come down to how effectively Bastion Main can be set up for this early part of the push. If he can get around the flank and kind of burst out, it's going to be hard for the reset to come in for the defense, right? It's going to be hard for them to kind of retake a fight. You need to be able to control the high ground, and if the Bastion's up there, then you have to push into that damage, and the whole time you're taking damage from the flank. So that's going to come down to it. If you can get Bastion Man into position, Avoided start to look very good. But if that doesn't happen, then this composition that is coming out with early on the side of Regen, you're starting to think, okay, Cart could quite easily be full health.
Yeah, and I kind of think without an Orisa in the lineup, it's difficult to get Bastion main set up on the cart as the pirate ship strategy. So he might be looking to do something a little bit different here. Went for an early pick there with the Widowmaker, couldn't find it, so it is back on the Bastion. And I've seen them do this before. They opt to not put Bastion on the cart, and they're just going to make him play some difficult angles for Regen to play through.
Right. This is not about getting a cart hold for Bastion main, right? It's about getting them on a flank position that opens things up for the DPS or for the other members to come in. And Bane won. Oh. But I mean, sort of the point, right? Get Bastion main in a position where you can actually do something. That, however, is very difficult because both is in the air, making life just absolutely hellish for the stationary target.
Yeah, and this was looking really good for Avoided on this first pick. The kills have come through in really quick succession here for Regen. And even Bane 1 coming through on the Wrecking Ball, just taking so much damage that he can't really stay and cause the trouble he wants to cause.
That is exactly it. I mean, this is kind of what I highlighted at the start of the round. Boat's going to go down here, but I don't think that's enough because the rest of the going to be there. Yeah, exactly. And now we're in the hardest part of the map, I think, for the Bastion to retake because this is a technical choke. You're looking for the tank line to create space, but look how much spam is being taken in by both Bane1 and Hammond Main as, again, this cart's kind of stalled out against this Orisa Sigma.
Okay. Oh, they went for the wraparound. They went for the high ground, but both read them like the easiest of books and just barraged the DPS line of Avoided. Bane1 back through the TP and trying to get out now. And this is interesting from Zulz, just trying to find anything with this amplification matrix, but there's not enough damage coming through it.
I mean, you have to break this choke. This is the hardest part, I think, for this composition to kind of attack on this objective, on this particular point, because you're running the Wrecking Ball, right, who's going to be in the back line. But the other problem is that Hammond Main can't hold that frontline pressure by himself. His shield really is not effective at dealing with a Hanzo because of the high ground that he can take. So, with and especially with Nolan in the background here, Avoided is just in a world of hurt at this point.
Look, I know this normally works for Nolan in ranked games, and Lord knows I hate to see it in my ranked games, but sending so much value into the backline just to try and tickle people in the back and annoy them is robbing a huge amount of sustain out from Avoided as they try and mount this offense. They have finally got this payload around the corner from the choke, but the Dragon's going to split them off, and it's really only Hammond Main left there probably keeping this contested. They have managed to get Bastion Main up onto the high ground with the TP, but he just lasted less than a second, and the cart's going to roll right the way back through again.
And I mean, that was a whole play that Avoided was doing, but the Immortality Field missed, so Bastion Main was actually not protected. And Nolan gets stunned out of his coalescence there.
That's rough. Man, I love watching Bane. Any good Wrecking Ball, this like really smooth Wrecking Ball tech I love to watch, but he just can't stay in the fight for long enough to make it work. There's the rock right into the face of Hammond Main, and it just gives a little boost there for Ship, who survives that handily. Bastion Main with the last few seconds here of the configuration tank, looking for anything, and will find a long-range downtown shot into CJ, but he's not being allowed to set up and really capitalize on it. Boats in the back, will be trying to run down Hammond Main, but can't find it. Kills finally starting to light up here for Avoided, but it is taking them a long old time to make this work, and they're not out of the woods yet, LaFon.
No, they are.
Maybe they are.
Going to get the tap, yes, but it's still not very. Now is the harder part, arguably, especially with two players going down. You're not going to be able to take that high ground contest that you needed to get, Bastion Main into position. You're going to have to commit Dyslexia's ult, I think, here at the wall, the projected barrier, to kind of get Bastion in position, get that high ground contest. You're still having to deal with a Pulse Bomb coming online. You're going to have to deal with the Dragon Strike, and you have to feel that Regen right now are kind of working with all the tools that they need.
You kind of think the matchup here between Boat and Bane kind of favors Regen, because you really want your main tank with the rest of your team making space up there. And without Wrecking Ball in that fight to really take this to them, it looks like Regen might have enough damage here to round this out. But Hammond Main, with the Hyperspheres, is going to find Boat here. Bastion Main up to the high ground, and they've made it work, LaFon.
that's what they had to do, though. They had to commit the proton barrier, the Symmetra's ultimate, to get get Bastion Main into position, then use the teleport to kind of, rotate him away, make him a little bit more survivable, and that's what opens up the high ground. So now you get through the hardest part of second with the resources that were available to you. Chopper's going to make another switch here as we're going to head into third, and oh, this is an early fight.
Yeah, this is Amplification Matrix out early, and it stops Bastion Main from riding that cart any further forward. Regen looking to retake this choke here, and with the cart not having progressed through here, I think this is going to be a very difficult one for Avoided to retake.
Yeah, I mean, again, choke points are the enemy here of the Bastion in this particular situation, because Bastion has less outlast potential, right? There's less shield strength to work with, and so this really does favor, I think, Regen just a little bit.
That was a good attempt there with the configuration tank from Bastion Main. Immortality Field keeps them alive through that, but 2 picks already. The rock to the face, and that is it. Now, with a flashbang, not going to find the head connect here from Chopper, but will eventually get a rundown onto Nolan. We're going to see this hold continuing for Regen in really dire straits for Avoided.
My favorite Nolan factoid is that in the name of charity, he lost a Widow duel to a Platinum Widowmaker. In the name of charity.
It was very charitable of him, if indeed that's what it was. I watched Door perform, though, and I think just Door had his number the entire round, just playing with his food.
Back to the game, though, Regen does have, again, that high noon. If they can get into the backline, Chopper can actually put some pressure on this Wrecking Ball throughput. Again, that stun's so desperate to work against.
Yeah, that's really rough. Main's been having a really difficult time trying to get these off. Every time he pops that ult in, he gets stunned out of it. Dyslexia at massive charge, and Zulex and Bane 1 with a little bit of help there are going to round this through. Now Avoided are in control of the cart. They've only got Nolan's ult here.
There was a nice little tech there from Dyslexia. Sorry, Phil.
No, go for it.
Ball comes up, and he actually puts the turrets down just close enough, so they zap the tanks as they're coming in. So it's 4 points of damage, and they go down. To your point, though, the ultimates is coming through is just going to be the support ultimates here for Avoided. Regen, they again have tools to work with. Match Maple going to switch over to the Ana now, so a lot more healing available, and there's no way to deny it. You only really have the Sigma's wall. That's not enough.
Got to see this contest coming through, but Chopper went for the behind the back high noon, but Bastion Main knew exactly where he was, and Avoided now fully in control of this. They move past the Amplification Matrix, they take down the Immortality Field, they take down Magic 8 Ball. As they continue to trickle onto point, Avoided are going to deal with each threat of Regen in turn. Chopper's going to go down here, and that's going to be the payload through. 40 seconds on the clock.
That was, frankly, a mistake from Regen. I did not expect the fight to go that poorly for them. I'm not sure why Chopper... Well, I mean, there was a huge flank from Ship and Chopper, and I believe as well Boat onto the high ground. They were going for the flank high noon, but they come up against the Bastion instead. A questionable look to my mind for Regen, and as a result, you pick up one by one, and with the cart being so close to the finish line, obviously Regen, they're not going to be able to retake against the Bastion in that situation. So despite having the better ult economy, give up the point for free, and what looked like a fantastic hold on first is now a 3rd point capture with time remaining. And I mean, if you're Regen, you're suddenly wondering where it all went wrong.
I feel like they looked a little bit hesitant on point C, to be honest, whether that was actual hesitancy or Avoided playing at sufficiently high a tempo that they weren't ever really given the chance to read through. I don't quite know, and they've got to take a minute here to try and shake that off and come back looking a little more solid as they come into their attack round, because 40 seconds is, but for Junkertown, it's not a terrible time bank. I have seen better. There's no reason why Regen can't push through this and take us to another round on Junk.
No, we absolutely could get it to another point on Junkertown, and I would not be surprised if we get there. My question isn't, will we get there? The question is, why did Regen take such a bad fight? Because we've seen them take good fights all series long. It just puzzling, right? But we are going to see Avoided with the teleport fast and close.
Oh, this could be a rough one. If you know what you're doing, though, it's a fairly easy one to get out of the way of. But lots of early ult charge here for Avoided. That's going to be Dyslexia down. No res available for them. It's going to be a slow war of attrition here, because now that Avoided are down 1, and the respawns are going to be coming through very quickly for Regen, they can't keep this going indefinitely.
And the biggest problem here is you don't have that teleport for Bastion in close anymore, so they have to reset to a different position. Chip gets knocked off the map.
Oh, that's rough.
It's been a while since I've seen someone get knocked off on the left side of the defender's perspective on this map.
Well, I guess when you're looking for different angles to come out from here, you're going to see that be one possibility. Bane will take a bit of a pummeling there from Nerissa, but able to get through and get healed back up again. And this actually, for Avoided, is going about as well as you could ever hope for in this fairly early defense. They've even got this, they just got Dyslexia back in the fight, and Chopper's able to find the double there, and they just come out of the gate swinging. But still, a minute burnt off the clock here by Avoided.
Avoided did force resources to be committed just to get out of spawn, though, right? The amplification matrix had to be committed from CJ, so you don't have that coming in. And now in this next fight, if you play your cards correctly, and those cards are, Dyslexia's ultimate, Bane 1 and Hammond 1, Hammond Main's ultimate coming in. I mean, there's going to be a wealth of resources available to Avoided on this next fight. It's going to be all about that retake. I would expect the wall to come in, followed up by the Gravitic Flux trying to get people off the cart, which you can then coalesce down.
You've got to be hoping for an early pick here, but that is going to be Q from Avoided. And there's 2 kills for Regen. Like, all these ults thrown in, and it's not resulted in the team wipe they might have liked here. In fact, Avoided now going to be forced back a little ways. A couple of shots there into the kinetic grasp, but Chopper's going to survive. Will receive the nano here, but struggling to find value with it.
Yeah, that's
closing in on Abigail. Starting to make this work a little bit. Boat's going to find Zulix, but they've got to back away from that coalescence. Nolan finds Chopper. Pull the bomb out from Boat here, and a really scrappy fight all around.
Yeah, I mean, Scrappy is not favoring Avoided, though. They need to start getting value. Game 1 gets out with the bare minimum of HP. Things are going from bad to worse here now for Avoided, though.
Yeah, and of course the payloads now reach that all-important natural choke caused by these buildings towards the midpoint of C, and it gets that little bit easier to make this roll forwards. Everyone's going to have to wait out here a little bit. This is a potentially beautiful snipe. They've had it's so good a snipe there from Bastion Main that Chopper has to give up on the high noon just to get to safety. We'll find time to take Bane 1 down and Hammond Main, so no tanks available here for Avoided, and Regen have the stronger position here. They don't have ults to work with, neither do Regen, but we're in a position here where there's not even going to be a recon test from Avoided.
They are down to that minute mark, though, as the point gets unlocked, so successfully wasting a lot of time here in 2020 by Avoided as Regen tries to get that first cap. It will come
flash
through.
Yeah, almost got the melee combo there to take Hammer Main down, but Boat's going to get the clear. That's the complete, and we get to see them take their crack at defeat.
A lot of time wasted, though, Phil. Regen were not able to get nearly as clean. I mean, that fight that Dyslexia uses the photon barrier. I wish I could get ultimate for.
If you're having fun, are you wasting time, LaFon? That's the real question.
If you're trying to win, yes.
Oh yeah, sorry. Different criteria, yeah.
But I mean, to the point of that last fight, it avoided just taking a bad engagement, and I guess losing out in a fight that should have been theirs. They use 3 ultimates and lose 3 players. So
yeah,
even trade.
Yeah, already past the halfway mark here for Avoided. Now they're going to have to deal with some high ground presence here from Avoided. Wall comes up, but it's not in the right place, and Chopper gets the triple. Trades out Boat with the minefield, but Chopper's able to rotate back onto the point. But this is dangerous now because there are turrets to deal with. As the wall goes down, he's got a better line through, but will go down to Hammond Main. Ship's able to find the final turret here and secure a little bit of an easier fight. Finds Hammond Main, and Bane 1 fan 1 on the Hammond himself. This is looking good for a complete here and a reasonable time bank for Regen.
Yeah, second point fights, not, if you need them, go look somewhere else because we didn't get any on this map. And 3:20 left now on the clock, so Regen working with some time. It's still not that healthy of a time bank. Third point on Junkertown, notoriously difficult to attack. And the one thing that is going to be available, though, is that Nano Blade. And the only thing you kind of have to avoid is the Sigma's Accretion, as well as the Immortality Field. So, Regen, they should have pretty easy win conditioning.
Nice dodge there on the rock, and out comes the nano-boosted Dragon Blade. Flux out from Hammer Main is going to get the double as Chopper gets deleted from this as well. And that was a disastrous ult combo from Regen. Time maybe a little bit too late, a little bit too early. Avoided able to just ignore that and secure a good fight win and a good hold position.
And I wonder, I mean, that Nano Blade was so... I mean, that should have been their win condition, right? But instead, Boat decides to dash into Bastion Main and take possibly the worst fight he could have. We're going to see a switch coming up yet again as Match Maple goes over to the break. So mystery support's coming in now. And that teleport Bastion main close is going to be very difficult to break in.
Oh, that's just Chopper down before he could really even poke his head above the parapet there. And Bastion main on a flank with the configuration that may be thinking a little better of it now, but the last thing you want is that configuration tank in your back line.
This is he's gonna take he's just gonna spam in close, just buying time. That's what you need to do here. Remember, Regen gave up the map to Avoided. Avoided completed the map, so Avoided is just trying to bleed time at this point and try for a last fight hold on the end of Junkertown, where the Bastion becomes a little bit more easy to kind of spam with.
I mean, I guess the one thing you've got in your favor here for your Regen is you do have a few ults available. Minefield from Baymon Fan 1, though, once again stops up the ingress, takes Lava out of the fight, and it means that's another 10, 20 seconds easily burns off the clock when there is only just over a minute available here for Regen to complete the map.
And I have to say, I don't like this composition from Regen. The Junkrat plus the Free. You're not going to break in onto this Bastion. The Bastion can play under the high ground. He can teleport out away. And on the entry, of course, the spam kind of zones out. The spam from Dyslexia kind of spams out the Genji. So we're going to see a switch yet again. But time is of the essence here for Regen, and they're not working with it very well at all.
This is going to be an OT push, if anything. Baymon takes a little bit of a beating on the way through there, and Ships decided to throw in the Gravitic Flux. Doesn't find a lot of value. Chopper has found an opening kick here with Nolan down, and that is going to be what causes the cookie to start to crumble.
The question is now, how do you get this retake if you are... How do you get the retake if you are Avoided, right? Again, you've got the barrier from Dyslexia. You've got Hammond Main's ultimate here in the Gravitic Flux, but we saw how disastrous that was the last time that combo was executed. I think it's going to be a little bit easier to kind of coalesce on here, as you can set up the wall just a little bit better.
Oh, Hammond Main caught out, Baymon caught out even. Nice long-range rock there on Bastion Main. No follow-up damage really to deal with him. Oh, Hammond Main having to duck out of the way or else receive the high noon. Siege is going to be the first fall here, and now we are into overtime for Regen, and they are down in numbers. Chopper away on the side. Will get pressured out here, but makes the rotate and finds Zulex here. We'll have to deal with the configuration tank as well, and the configuration tank does a hefty amount of damage, deals with Chopper and Magic Mate Ball. The overtime's going to tick down, and do you know what? I've seen Avoided make this kind of reverse sweep before, so maybe this is where this starts this time.
I mean, yeah, we have seen Avoided pull the magic out of the bag. As I mean, I believe this is the play of this is the play that allows them to close out the map. But Dyslexia, you know, that wall where they executed with the Gravitic Flux is what they were trying to do on first phase, right? When we saw them try and hold out, it was just executed a lot better, right? And they blocked the high noon off this time as Chopper was unable to get onto a flank, and so to avoid its sight, it was a much better way of playing the game. And I think now as the map comes in, that was Avoided's map pick. So we are going to go to Regen's map pick for the first time, Phil. And I wonder, you know, depending on the question is, how are you going to play against the look that Avoided was going through? Because I don't think we're going to see a substitute here. I'd be surprised if Dyslexia and Bastion may kind of switch out. But Phil, it should be an interesting third or fourth map.
Yeah, it really should be, particularly with Regen getting the chance to pick. We are going to throw to a quick break, but just one little snippet before we go. For the EU version of Avoided, we had Minimi on an interview on a game the other day. Junkertown is their worst map. They hate it. They can't play on it, and so they just go, we'll do whatever, and nothing seems to work for them. It's interesting for me that NA Avoided look like they've got this, if not figured out, at least they've got a comfortable look on it. Yeah. Certainly going to be a quick, interesting difference between NA and EU for Avoided. Yeah, it's interesting to see how these two teams line up, and we'll see how our two teams, Regen and Avoided, continue their matchup after a short break. Welcome back, everybody. We're getting ready to go into our fourth map of today. We're still at match point, though. Regen currently at 3, Avoided on 1. So if Avoided want to have that smooth run through into the grand finals, they've got to win another 3 maps in a row. Regen just got to pull out that one. We're moving to Volskaya now. Lafon, what are we thinking for these teams on Volskaya?
I mean, this is obviously Regen's map pick. Another thing to note is there has been a side swap. So Regen, for the first time this series, will be in red, Avoided in blue. So mark your notes off that. No substitutes either side. Dyslexia and Bastiminga staying in for Avoided. Regen continue the same roster they've had all day so far. And what do we expect from them? I think this is going to be... I think one of the things that I find most interesting is that Avoided in the last couple of maps we're playing, especially in Junkertown, we're playing a style that I think mirrors out what APAC is kind of doing, APAC and the Overwatch League is doing in terms of how they play the wrecking ball, right? Especially with, Chengdu kind of does, where they send Ame into the backline to create a lot of havoc, to do a lot of damage too, and bleed resources, and then it just opens up the DPS a little bit. Obviously, the DPS look for Avoided is different. They're running the Bastion and the Symmetra, which has some natural synergy with the way the teleporters works, but I think functionally the idea is the same. You put the wrecking ball in the backline to create a lot of havoc, and then the frontline DPS are able to come in and clean up. The only difference is that even without the Zarya, Damon Van was able to stay alive for quite some time. So dodge the stuns, dodge the damage coming in, and providing value to his team. So the question is, with the attack coming in now from Regen, can they deny that extreme pressure that comes in from the backline? That's really the question, I think, here is, can they ignore the damage that the tank line is doing to them on Avoided's side?
And I do think that I know they're in attacking spawn, and I know that I'm going to get told off again for talking about what's in attacking spawn, but like the Pharah and the Widowmaker here, like the pure pick potential, the consistent damage, I feel is such a good way to deal with particularly Bastion main, and just to try and flush out some of that utility from Zulix, for example, to get the immortality out early just to help Bastion main survive. Like, I think this is a really good read.
I don't disagree with that at all, actually. I think it's an accurate representation. We're gonna see that teleporter again. Bastion main is gonna go from side to side. He's gonna be able to dodge that, shielding coming in. And I mean, that's really the question. Baemon might actually be able to get, perhaps, depending which side they come through. He's gonna scout out. Yeah, scout out, see what's the composition, and then head back.
Regen is smart enough to know not to go where Baemon can get those easy knockoffs. The question is, are they smart enough to know exactly where Bastion main is and exactly what he's going to be doing? Nice trick shot there for Chopper. No head hitbox for Bame, and he's left himself vulnerable completely to the line of fire. Beautiful shield out, but not enough as Nolan's able to find Chopper. And this might be the attacking push here aborted without Chopper able to put in that damage down mid.
That being said, they've allowed the Pharah to get into position now, and Bastion main, the immortality field was committed to keep him alive. Chopper does his job. He pulls them out of position long enough to get the Pharah into play. And now, I mean, Regen, they're not in a spectacular position, but it's not terrible either. And Bastion main now the one.
Oh, I mean, that was the big one, really. Bastion main, the tip of the spear. He's now down. Dyslexia's going to make a punch back here, but they've got to get another equalizer and solidify their position on point, and it's not going to happen. Both valiantly there, trying to take what the supports out of the running, but it's not going to happen. Magic Label also bring Chopper back in with the res. Dyslexia down to direct rockets, and that is going to be it. A very quick tap here by Regen.
Zulix actually gets a kill out on his way through, though, so that's going to be unfortunate for the Pharah player as Boat respawns in. I think he respawns in close, though, so he'll be fine.
Yeah, he should get he's got the good spawn, not the bad spawn, so he'll be in relatively quickly.
Yep. I mean, here's now, I think, a harder part to take is that Hammond main is going to be able to put a shield up for Bastion main. And the Pharah is going to have a little bit harder of a time here, right? You can't spam out a shielded target as easily. If Chopper, however, can get in the backline and get a kill up with the Pulse Bomb, I think this could open things up very well for Regen.
That's really rough. Lava's down first. A little bit hard to approach through the Orisa shield with the consistent damage. We will see the Pulse Bomb come out, gets out the Immortality field, and Boat's able to find one with the barrage. And now things are looking a little bit rougher for Avoided. Regen not wholly in this fight, though.
Zulek's able to find Ship. Both still doing damage in the background, but Hammermain has a nice bead through onto Lava, and with a bit of help there from the Coalescence, may just win that one out. Vayne up onto the high ground, but can't get the damage through the pocket of the Mercy onto the Fire of Boat, and that's got to be the reset.
There was a close moment there where I think Regen was trying to fight for pressure on the point, but Chip is unable to walk back just in time into the Immortality field, and that shutters the push, right? So avoided, they buy time, and they still have one of their most impactful resources here in the Wrecking Ball's the Wrecking Ball's ultimate here.
Imagine if Wrecking Ball did have Immortality field.
That would be pretty interesting. But I mean, you can close out the map, right? You can close out the point and make it difficult for Regen to kind of stand on it. The teleporter is taken away, so no shenanigans in the backline from the Bastion.
Oh, the question here is, can Bo get close enough to get the benefit from the supercharger, or will he just get close enough to Dyslexia to just get completely whipped out of the sky? Hammerman closing in with a supercharger of his own, finds to pick onto Magic 8 Ball, and once more, that's got to be the reset here from Regen. They've got ults, but they've not got the team members to make this work.
Yeah, I mean, Boat gets taken down through a combo of Dyslexia and Zulex. If Zulex had gotten down, this might have been a different look entirely, but again, avoided. They're riding the edge of disaster and coming out on the right side of it just long enough. They're bleeding enough time. Bame1 in the backline. Again, trying to create that havoc, trying to create that disaster, trying to make life difficult for the supports. There's the amplification matrix for Regen.
Yeah, just going to be using that to buy some space. Force avoided around the corner to avoid the pick potential. Boats playing around that corner. Concussive Minds in. Gets the barrage out. Immortality down. Bastion main down. But you make yourself such a target here. Pulse Bomb's going to find Dyslexia, but Dyslexia is also going to find Chopper. So it's not a fight that Regen are winning convincingly here. There are always at least one or two members of Avoided left alive to keep that fight going on. Magic 8 Ball down, and another reset for Regen. Lots of time being burnt off the clock here by Avoided.
Yeah, and I think this needs to be a reset in terms of not just the fight, but a readjustment in terms of strategy as well from Regen. I don't know that the Pharah is working. The Pharah has to commit so hard to get in on the Bastion, right? And while that's happening, it's a 6v4, and Avoided is willing to take that 6v4. They go in and just pressure out the front line. So they're going to see Chopper going to go over to the Han zone now. But, I mean, Bo just needs to get more value and stay alive a little bit easier.
Oh, what a beautiful run through of A1 Fan1. Can't find the final bullets into the head of Chopper taking out of it, but causing a lot of damage. Making a lot of a fuss, drops the minefield, slows down the recontest, went for the boop, got rocked, but still the damage. Ship is now down, and we're under 2 minutes here, and Regen haven't really found any answer to what Avoided are doing. Oh, Chopper's going to start things up, though. Hits 3 in a row, including Bastion main. Has the opening now, allows Regen to start closing the distance and really put a foot on points. Coalescence is going to come out and it's going to burn down the supercharger, so no nice tasty additional ult charge gain for Regen. And with the last dregs of the Coalescence, Nolan takes down Lava, and what was looking great there for Regen just peters out in the final seconds.
Coalescence plus supercharger is such an effective combo. You pierce through shields, there's no way to block it short of a literal wall, and as a result, the supercharger value from the defense is just a little bit more effective. And now you're running into last fight territory. You're starting to put yourself in a really dangerous position. Dyslexia is going to have a barrier here. And I mean, with how much projectile damage is on the board, the only thing that I can really think going through that split ability, through the ability to split the point, is going to be the Dragon Strike, which Chopper, I mean, is going to have to be the hero yet again in this fight.
Ideally, he wants a pick with a primary fire, and this is so bad. 25 seconds left upon Chopper, only just escapes the grasp of the Holt there to get out. They've got one more go at this, and they've only got that Dragon Strike.
And yeah, I mean, Boat has to come back the long way around because Magic 8 Ball's unable to res, and you've got 10 seconds. Who's going to touch? Who's going to commit? Dragon Strike's going to be Chopper.
He's going to buy some space, and then he's got to be the one to hibbity hop his way onto point to get that contest going. He tags in. Immortality field is all ready, but Vayne1 Fan1 had the minefield ready to go. It is so hard to contest the point through that with how well those mines spread. Now with the double shielding out and Magic 8 Ball going down to Vayne1 Fan1 yet again. It's looking like we're going to see a shutout on point B here for Regen, paving the way for Avoided to maybe get this map if they can just get that one tick on their run through on attack.
And I mean, yeah, 1 1/3 point is all that stops Avoided from equalizing this series. And I have to say, I disagree with the compositional choices that Regen were running on that second point. If you can't get that far into position safely, if you can't really get, into that line of fire where she's creating that spam damage, then you're basically at a 4v6 the entire time. And we know how much that you need your entire team to fight Assault on second point. Regen, I think, stylistically, compositionally shut out there, not just in terms of execution, but in terms of just the basic selections they made at the hero spawn. I have to question, Regen's kind of look. The Pharah was fantastic on point A. I think that was a great choice. It's much more open. You can get a rotation in much more cleanly. Boat can play a lot more safely and put a lot of pressure on the Bastion. But on second, where there's much more cover and rotations available for the defense, Pharah becomes a lot more ineffective. So,
you put it in its place out of interest?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, I would not have hated a hyper mobile character on the second point, right? Where you can get in that backline and create. And Boat, I think, did run the Tracer at one point there and then switch back to Pharah. It just, didn't work for long enough, so they didn't force it, I don't think. But on top of it, maybe even a Junkrat, something that has a lot more ability to kind of play inside the team. There's I think a little bit more needed to be done there. But now for the defense, Regen, the Pharah is going to look good again on point A. Pharah has so much more room to work with, much more aerial cover. And the Bastion has a harder time getting into position.
Of course, we'll have the benefit of that teleport. You can see it out already. Has a line onto Boat, and that was just such a misstep from Boat. He had to know that the Symmetra was coming out, had to know that that was going to be coming through without his interference. Boat's going to have to be coming back here on the Tracer, and this is all falling apart now for Regen.
I think the biggest thing here that's somewhat frustrating if you're watching Regen, you're like, where's the team that was on points on maps 1 and 2, is that we knew, what Regen is going, what Avoided is going to be running. They're telling you every time they put their roster in, right? This is not a surprise. Boat gets caught out on the teleport for some reason, and it goes all wrong. We're gonna see wholesale switches, but 6 minutes nearly to take the first third of the point, and you're running dive with nothing available to you. BAME1 can actually close this out with a really good.
Oh my gosh. That's got to be it, right? I mean, you've got... Oh, Chopper. Chopper's fine, so it's actually a great anti-nade there from CJ to really open things up. But again, look at the coverage on the mines here from BAME1 Fan 1. Makes the contest so difficult, but Regen are finding a way to make this look at least a little bit manageable. Shift there on the D.Va has done so much work to open this up. We'll see the wall coming out now. CJ on the high ground closing in on having that nano ready to go. Bastionman's going to find Ship, and he's desperately trying to keep Magic Mate Ball alive, but it's just not happening for him. This is looking bad now for Regen as the pick comes through onto CJ. It's going to be down to Chopper to keep this going. It's going to be down to Boat to keep this going, and that is it. 1/3 of the tick, all but guaranteed here as the respawns come through. That is it. Man, what a blistering performance from Avoided.
And, Avoided make that look spectacularly easy. Phil, and I mean, Chopper's going to get play of the game, but I don't think he cares. It is, this is that was that 3K. That should have opened it up.
Yeah, I'm amazed that went no further than this, because, I mean, look, Bastion just gets completely caught out of that. High ground advantage for Chopper, and then there's just nobody left. Like, Regen have just disappeared from the fight at that point.
And we are going to head now to map number 5. Yeah. We are even. This is the final map available. No draws left. We're going to go to control. And now, if you're Regen, I mean, you're back to a map type that you won pretty handily. But after the performance in the last two maps, questions have to start being asked. Regen, what is your adaptation to what Avoided has put on the table?
Avoided certainly look a lot better now that they've got Dyslexia in the lineup. I think that's really enabling Bastion main. Interesting to see as a move to control whether they're going to pick the slightly more flexible pick of maybe bringing Moro back in. But we're going to have to wait a couple of minutes to see exactly how they're going to be running this, because we're going to throw it to a quick break so that our players can flex their wrist a little bit. We'll be back in a couple.
Welcome back, everybody. Here it is. No possibility of a draw this time. This is going to be the last map through Avoided and Regen, both currently sat at 2-2, looking for that final digit to put them through into the grand finals. We're moving over to Li Jiang, another control map, and we got a couple of subs coming in for Avoided, Lafon.
Certainly, the roster that they start out the series on, they're going to end it with as well, as both Moro and Aquamarine come into play. As Avoided, I mean, you know, Dyslexia looked really good on the Symmetra, a natural synergy with Bastion main in the compositional choices they were doing, right? The Symmetra plus the Bastion teleport flank was very effective on both Junkertown and Volskaya. And I mean, control the last time around went heavily to Regen. It was a 2-0. The first round was close. The second one very much not so. I guess the question is luck going to be on Avoided's side? Because if we head to, I think, if we head to Control Center, right? If we head to that indoor map, there is suddenly Avoided's chance of being a lot more effective. If we start off on Garden, though, then things might be a little bit shakier for them. So I think certainly in the last round, it's going to come down to how does Avoided execute on their best submap type, and then again on their worst submap type.
And I wonder what Avoided are thinking here, having seen how good Bastion Main and Dyslexia were together, and knowing that there are at least a couple of maps here where the early Symmetra TP strategy to get to point first has a lot of value. I wonder what swapping out here says about how they want to play this.
I mean, the thing that's going to come to mind here is how are you going to play up? Aquamarine is going to play the Junkrat almost certainly, I think.
Well, yeah.
What is Moro going to play alongside it, right? Because Moro is always that X factor, I think, whenever he steps into this roster. He can play a lot of stuff very well. And I think that's really going to be, Moro's execution to be the real question mark here.
Well, we're going to be starting off on Gardens today. And, well, I mean, we don't have any looks to talk about in Spawn yet, but this is another example for me of Avoided when it's late at night for me and I'm staring down the barrel of a 3 a.m. finish. They decide they want to take this all the way to 5 maps, and Lafon, at some point, I've got to start thinking it's personal.
I mean, we, one of our players certainly had expectations of you casting them, and so I think they're drawing it out to get more of your gorgeous voice commentating over them.
Well, thanks. You get a bit my head bigger than it already is. Got a couple of looks lined up here already. Aquamarine locking in his trademark Junkrat. Moro probably just going to be looking for that little bit of early distance with the Sim before swapping off, I would guess.
Yeah, Chopper. I mean, this is just a standard setup here from Regen. Avoided though.
Yeah.
To point they go.
Yeah, well, nice defensive setup here. Aquamarine's going to be able to control a lot of those chokes, but Chopper bounces Nolan's orb right back at him. And that is an early double pick here for Regen. And Avoided, even with that early control of the point, have not made it work out. Chopper now toe-to-toe with Moro. Can't deflect a lot of what Moro can throw at him, but that's an early cap for Regen, and that was an amazing push.
I mean, that's an early cap that should have not really gone in favor of Regen. They gave up point control, and so much spam was given away of Aquamarine walking back here. I mean,
very nearly went over the edge for both of them. Oh, Baymon will get boat here. So much chaos caused by the Wrecking Ball in the lineup. You know, so hard to hit, it disrupts your own aim, and in the chaos, Avoided come up big, and they're going for the recap.
I have a question in that, is there going to be a swap here for Regen? Because I don't think what they're running, and there it is, exactly so. Boat goes over to the Pharah. I was going to say, I don't think the Ashe does anything of value here. The Pharah is a lot more effective at spamming out both the Junkrat and just burning resources from the Moira. You're going to build a Coalescence quickly, but no one already has that, so it doesn't matter. There's the
application. Yeah, out from Clay to get things started up early, and now both can't actually find a lot of value. Needs to rotate to get himself in a position to find some value. The rest of Regen, they're going to be backing out for now as they realize they can't take this fight. Baemon in a position there to get a run through, but instead gets rocked and retreats back through. Aquamarine's going to find a handy corner somewhere to pop this ult from, one would imagine. Just be careful because Boat is on the back side of this fight. We got the blade out from Chopper, we got the Gravitic Flux out from Ship, and they're already going to find Morrow down. Aquamarine down here as well. Looking good for a retake from Regen.
A very expensive fight, though, for Regen, as I think they commit the 2 ultimates on their side. They don't get this cleanly either.
No, not at all. This is still going on, still capping that little last bit of point progress for Avoided as well. They have got it, but as you say, cost them a lot to do.
Gravitic Flux and the Dragon Blade, and you almost have to wonder, Chopper, you know, how are you going to get into the backline here? You're going to see a switch over. Morrow going to play the McCree, and now this is actually starting to be the problem here for Boat, as Morrow is brought in for his flexibility. Riptire over the top. Build. I mean, life suddenly got a lot more dangerous for the Pharah.
It did. Oh, Lava thought he was safe. He was hidden around the corner. The shield gave him away, and Aquamarine took him down. And now there's an Orisa advantage on the field for Avoided. There's a Supercharger advantage on the field. Baemon gets just booped off the side by the whip shot from Magic Maple. So they're still in this after a fashion. More away in the back. Looking to get something done through the Amp Matrix, and the kills are now here for Avoided. Boat's going to find one with the barrage, even as Aquamarine goes down. Lava now back with the team and ready to fight. Boots out, not a lot you can do to counterplay that one. Same one with the double. And it's going to flip right the way back again. They really want to take this down to the wire, LaFon.
It is back and forth all the way through. Another swap comes in. Boat forced off the Pharah. And actually, life just got a lot more difficult for Regen because Boat is going to be zoned out so heavily. As this is close to what I would consider, you know, this is a significant composition difference from Avoided as Hammerman goes over to the Winston.
Interesting.
You're looking now at perhaps a Dragon Blade, but into a minefield. You have to think Avoided are suddenly starting to look at the cards and saying, I mean, we've got a winning hand here.
Baemon is out. He's up. Gets the mines. Won't find the power driver, but has them a little bit there to stop the recon test coming through at the very least. And Aquamarine once more cooking this tire. It lasers it down and it's gone. Chopper went for the blade, but that's not going to be enough to secure the pick there for him as Nolan brings out the Coalescence. Aquamarine takes down Lava as well, and it's 99 to 87, and the cards are all in Avoided's hands. Not looking good here. TJ, though, throws in the Amplification Matrix, and Baemon's going to go down. Aquamarine gets focused, and we've got another flip here.
This is last fight on last fight. There's the Amplification Matrix in return. Zulek's trying to stay alive. Last fight.
Wow. This is great. This is great for Regen. Zulek's is down. It's going to be down to Baemon Fan 1 just to try and keep tagging in to keep this going. Morrow's back in on the sim to provide a nice quick route back to the point for his team as Baemon looks for more knockoffs. Can't find it and just gets pressured out. Looking good now for Regen. There's respawns coming in for Avoided, but it's 1v6 after 1v6 after 1v6, and that's got to be it going the way of Avoided.
Yeah, just the last second trickle here in now from Avoided, and it's not going to be enough. That was so close to being a difference, actually, though, as Chopper stops the roll through of Baemon Fan 1, and that, I think, was the entirety of that last fight, coming down to that one moment, because Baemon Fan 1 in his sights had the entirety of Regen about to get knocked off the map. So Chopper coming in clutch with the Doomfist, and we are now one round away. And for Avoided, a big problem as we are headed to arguably their worst map type or sub-map type for them, here on Lijiang Tower. We don't get to see Control Center. They have to fight for it, but we do get Garden instead. Aquamarine still in the Junkrat. Morrow going over to the Pharah.
And Regen coming out here with a dive. Bit of early progress there, going to be coming through for both with the TP. Expect to swap over to Tracer. So yeah, they're going full dive here. Not G dive, but pretty close.
I mean, this is essentially GT dive. The only difference, obviously, the Moira rather than the Zen. For all you history buffs out there, Phil, I know you and I saw that watching the past as Morrow's getting sieged here in the air by Ship.
Yeah, great presence there from Ship. Defense Matrix stops a lot of value coming through, but maybe wasn't expecting Hammond main on the Roadhog, the Moose special. D-Max him, not been taken out just yet, and Ship in Pilot Diva form finds Aquamarine. This is not looking good now for Avoided. Regen completely in charge of this fight on the dark.
Yeah, and I mean, Chopper now actually, I think, gets to flex his Genji up for the first time all series. He has a really good Genji, but, you know, in the previous map was unable to really bring it out due to the composition that Avoided was running. Here now, though, the real question is, it's going to be up to BAME1, FAM1, Hammond main, and Morrow to be the real difference makers here. BAME1 in terms of disruption, Hammond main in getting that pickoff, and Avoided, and sorry, Morrow in just leading resources away from the team in red.
That's really unfortunate. That hook didn't connect there. That could have been a guaranteed kill on Chopper, who uses that freedom away from the hook to find the pick up to Aquamarine and secure the 5v6. CJ is going to bring out that Kamehameha and just try and laser down what's left of Avoided. 40% on the ticker now for Regen, and Avoided so far without a leg to stand on.
I mean, we're going to need to see a hero play here from Avoided to get back in this series, or to get back into this map, because coming in, there's a lot of resources available. Chopper's going to have the Dragon Blade. You're going to have the Pulse Bomb. A stick not out of the question. And I have to think that the Junkrat also needs to stay alive a little bit easier. The Wrecking Ball is going to commit to Minefield. There it is. That's the pick that we need to start opening things up.
Well, Chopper will get a little bit of pressure there, but he's able to escape from the clutches of BAME1, FAM1, and the minefield there from BAME1 didn't do a huge amount really to stop up anybody getting in. It's not fire that he picks, and yet the space that it's caused, the extra presence that Avoided now have, has allowed them to get in and get the flip. It's not clean, but they're in charge and they're gaining capture points.
Something that I needed to see from Aquamarine at the start of this map was that the Junkrat needed to get either a pickoff or stay alive and cause pressure on the tanks. It wasn't happening early on in the series, or early on in the map, as we see him tick up to the Riptire. But now that he was able to get in, it suddenly becomes a lot more difficult here for Regen. They're needing to execute a clean dive onto the Ana. That's easier said than done through all the pressure that comes in from the Pharah, the Junkrat, and obviously the Roadhog.
Oh no! Aquamarine gave his presence away, and now it's down for his Riptire to be the difference maker, and that's going to be a quick 1-2-3K for the members of Avoided, and Regen sent back to spawn. At the very least, it only cost them a very quickly charging ultimate.
You're going to see Magic 8-Ball go over. I mean, did Magic 8-Ball use the sound barrier in that fight? I must have missed it.
He must have done, yeah.
Yeah, was unable to see if that went through, if it was denied. And now, I mean, you know, that's, if it had just been the Coalescence, you're like, okay, a good fight. But with the sound barrier being gone as well, Chopper is now going to be much squishier on this engage with Genji.
Self-destruct out for Ship. Would have liked a couple on that one, but can't get anything. Lava up against Hammond main. Might have been the difference maker there. And Ship deals Morrow a damaging blow in the middle of the ultimate. Chopper brings out the blade. What an apt name for a Genji player. And this is going to be the flip, and it was just about even.
Ship loses mech at the very end there on the mine. He's going to reset. You've got the Pulse Bomb, you've got the Primal Rage. It's all about denying contest. And the question is now, who does Zulex give this nano boost to?
Well, given that it is very close to last fight territory, it's going to have to be somebody fairly soon to be the difference maker, as Aquamarine is out of the fight. It's a 5v6 now for Regen. They are dangerously close to guaranteeing themselves that grand finals spot in the Prospect Cup. But between Aquamarine and Morrow, we see the double come through. So, numbers advantage now for Avoided, and BAME1, FAM1 in a position to set up that spin cycle and just keep this contest going indefinitely. Regen have the advantage in cap here, so it's going to be impingent upon BAME1, FAM1 to keep this going for as long as physically possible, and somebody's going to get back in from Avoided with a big pick, but that's it. They get pressured out, and they're going to fall 3-2 as Regen move up into the grand finals, and Avoided go down into the lower bracket to fight for redemption.
A somewhat anticlimactic final fight there, Phil, but I think
A little bit.
that really is what the series needed the cap to be. As a little unfortunate, but not much else that can be done. Oh my goodness. I mean, that was, regardless of the fact that that won the fight out for Regen, it's still pretty good dodging there.
Oh, yeah.
On Zulek's site. Dodge heads in the corner, gets the anti-nade off, and wasted a lot of time. Unfortunately, while that happened, the rest of Avoided went down, so Regen does take the victory here. 3-2, a very close series. I mean, after the first two maps, it did not look to be that way, but Avoided bring it back on maps 3 and 4, and it is instead Chopper and the rest of Regen who close out map number 5 and give themselves an easy path into grand finals as they await the remnant of this lower bracket to see who's going to meet them there.
And of course, lower bracket round will be coming up right after this. It's going to be Avoided up against Mind Your Manners. And looking at it, we're looking at the team that placed 4th in the Eastern Division against the team that placed 1st in the Eastern Division. So it's going to be a difficult task for Mind Your Manners, but Avoided are coming into this with a series already played, and a series that went the distance. And we've seen this weekend in Open Division just what having a tired team can do for your performance. Let's see if Avoided can struggle through the sleep deprivation and the energy expenditure when we return after a short break.